Hey everyone, it's Dunk, and I'm here with another update for Terraformacraft Plus. It's been a little while since the last update was put out. I've put a few videos up talking about the different things that, well, not really talking, showing off some of the different things that will be coming in this update. Because there are quite a few things to talk about. In fact, I'm not even sure where to start and how to even go about showing all of these things to you. But let's start with talking about World Gen. So there are a few World Gen changes that are coming in this update. World Gen and also just the kind of the climate system in general. The temperature system has been rebalanced and changed a little bit to make it, again, a little more sensible. It makes the Arctic areas make a little more sense. Winter should be a little bit better now, or worse, I guess, depending on your perspective. Harder, more difficult. If you saw the videos, you might have seen that there are now mountain ranges. We're going to get to that in a little bit later. But I think the most immediate thing that has changed is I've really restructured how ores work under the hood. And that has allowed me to add a few new ores, such as chalcocite here. And in fact, we've stripped this chunk away so we can take a look at the chalcocite. So this is a chalcocite vein. So this is what the ore looks like. The two new ores are chalcocite and chalcopyrite. It looks like chalcocite or chalcocite, I don't know, but it is definitely a cal. And they are both copper ores. And actually, with the addition of these two copper ores, now there are 5 copper ores. But that means that there is copper in every single rock type. So chalcocite will spawn in sedimentary rocks like dolomite. Chalcopyrite will spawn in igneous intrusive rocks like granite. And I guess the others I don't really remember offhand. But that's kind of... there's going to be some changes down the line, especially with the blacksmithing update, that will change how early progression works. I am gonna attempt to slow it down a little bit. I want players to be in the Copper Age and then be in the Bronze Age, and not just feel like they want to take as many shortcuts as possible to get through them. But part of that will be making copper easier to get, and then later on the bronzes might be a little more difficult. But I want to encourage players to not feel like copper is a super valuable resource that they need to conserve. And so not feel too bad about making copper tools instead of bronze tools. Because I know that when I play the game, I really get this feeling that if I make copper tools, I'm just wasting my copper. Because it's like hard to get. So I'm going to try and change that a little bit. And to start with, I'm adding these 2 new copper ores. So I hope they look, hope they look distinctive enough. So this, chalcocite has this these like white bands with like this dark bluish black going through the middle. Chalcopyrite actually has this kind of greenish yellowy color. Chalcopyrite is a similar mineral to pyrite, which is fool's gold, so it kind of has that color going on. We can look at the ores here. So that's chalcocite, rich, and this is chalcopyrite, so it's kind of got that kind of yellowish green thing going on. So I hope you guys enjoy that. I know people have talked about how difficult copper has been to get for a while. We can also talk about, one of the main things about this update ongoing is animals. Pigs are quite a bit smaller in this update. Just, I think they now actually represent their true sizes. It may not really look like it, but blocks are 1 meter tall. And a meter is actually quite big. Boars are about 70 to 80 centimeters at the shoulder, so they should go 70 to 80% up the height of a block. And I kind of realized that the way boars were sized before, they were, I don't know, very large. A bit too large. I know pigs can get quite big, but just with how the boards and everything are going to work, I felt like I just wanted them to be a bit smaller. I know pigs can get very, very big, but that's not what's happening here. And so that size for boars is something I just grabbed off Wikipedia. So boars here have 900 health. I believe that was the same as previously, although a lot of other animals have had their healths updated. I think if we walk down here, we'll find something else I was working on fixing recently. It's somewhere around here, through here. I've gotten kind of turned around as I've sidetracked myself. We can just go into creative and do this, yeah, manually. So what I've done is I've been working on armor stands. We're going to go into survival for this. So we'll put the armor stand down. So previously, since the clothing update, armor stands just wouldn't even render. Let's make sure we take off our clothes in the right order, because you can't take the shirt off if you've got a coat on. Just so we can demonstrate stands working now, because they do work. And we'll be able to put all of this, well, not the coat. Well, actually, yeah, we'll be able to put the coat on. Let's just put the socks on and then the shoes. Doesn't actually, unlike the player, it doesn't matter what order you put it on. So I could put the shirt on underneath the coat. Not really bothering. So yeah, just put the pants on underneath the greaves. And we put the hat on. So that's nice. Armor stands work correctly now. You know, you can get everything on and off. So I think that's nice. So that's good. Let's not stay in survival, because, so here's a bear. So you can see bears have 3,000 health, I believe, was it 3,500 before? There are a few preliminary changes with how bears work. They will not attack players on sight anymore. Because that was a little crazy. However, if you have food, any kind of food in TFC in your inventory, the bear will, and the bear's hungry enough, which they probably will be, the bear will attack you. If you throw some of your food on the ground, the bear will stop chasing you and try to go eat that food. And if you don't have any food in your inventory, the bear will leave you alone. It's possible that you could throw so much food on the ground that the bear gets full, and even if you still have food, he or she will give up and go away. But maybe not. If you have your food in a vessel or a burlap sack in your inventory, or a barrel or a large vessel, the bear cannot see it, cannot smell it, can't detect it. So that is a way, if you are going to go out in the woods transporting food around, you should keep it sealed in a container to prevent animals from tracking you down and trying to kill you. So that is a behavioral change in bears. Let's take a look around. I doubt, is that the sun setting? Sure. Let's just spawn in a few more animals and take a look at some of these changes. Excuse me. Let's see, cows, sure. Wolf, we can talk about those. I mean, wolves don't really behave much differently. Chicken's pretty much the same. Pig's pretty much the same. Deer is a little different. Skeleton, that's the same. And then, for some reason, sheep goes all the way down there. Pheasants are the same. Horses, maybe a little different. Ignore that. That one's not real. Let's just make this day. Alright, so let's put this deer down. So you can see the deer has 1,750 health now. That's quite a lot higher than it used to be. I think it used to be like, 400 or 500 or something. All animals are getting a lot tougher now. In the future, stop that. This actually represents a white-tailed deer, which are not the largest deer in the world. So that health value will probably go down, probably closer to 800 or 900. Once other deer are added, we have elk or moose even. Those would be ones that would have very high health values, and the regular deer will not. But until then, the deer is going to have a little more health. We can look at wolves. I don't really think they're much different. They do have 1,500 health. I believe they used to have 2,000. I just felt that 2,000 was a bit high for what they are. Cows. Cows are big now. They're actually called oryx. They have 3,500 health. They are not the... they will get a huge model update in the future. But until then, they are just a bit bigger and a lot beefier. So we can look at horses. So I have changed horses a little bit. They are a bit smaller now. They all have this sort of this wild texture. It's based on the wild horses in Mongolia, which I won't try to pronounce. So that's just kind of been a bit of a restructuring of their face, changing the angle of the ears. They've gotten a bit smaller. Obviously, there's the texture, and their necks are a little more forward instead of vertical. This is not the final texture for horses. I'm going to completely replace this texture with a model in the same style as the pigs and the other mobs. But I just felt like until then, horses needed a bit of a change. All animals will have a domestication feature. Pigs were previously the only animals that could be domesticated. And as a reminder, domestication works when you have the familiarity of the animal, which you can check by holding shift when you're looking at it. A little heart is above its head. When the familiarity of the animal reaches 100%, then any offspring that are born to a female animal with 100% familiarity will be domesticated. And being domesticated, they get a bunch of well, not really bonuses, but it makes them easier to deal with. They won't try to attack you, for one thing. Like pigs, for example, boars will try to kill you if you attack them. Pigs will not do that. There is no familiarity requirement for breeding them, so once you have pigs, you don't need to bother trying to get them to like you. They will just do whatever you want. And for other animals, there are similar traits. Most of the... Stop that. What are you doing? Most of the domestication traits will be added as animals are updated. So for right now, it's just some animals have this capability. When a horse is domesticated, its texture will be able to use the original vanilla textures of the different, colors and varieties. When it's wild, they'll all look like this. So that's just something to keep in mind. The mob that I skipped, you probably noticed, was the sheep. And the sheep / mouflon was kind of the main focus of this update until I got sidetracked with a ton of other stuff. So we can spawn a sheep in and take a look. So this is a female mouflon, has 1,100 health. So you see she's got quite a nice model, the same style as the pig. See, I think she's got quite a nice walking animation. But you may notice there doesn't seem to be much in the way of wool on her. And that is true. And this is a trait of mouflon and sheep. Well, mostly mouflon. Mouflon will not grow wool unless the temperature is below 10 degrees Celsius. So you can see there at the top left, we're in debug mode. The temperature is currently 22 degrees Celsius. So it is way too warm for her to have any wool, so she will not produce any wool. If you were in a warm climate like this and you wanted wool, you would have to try and raise your sheep on top of a mountain, or somewhere, or I don't know, just move somewhere colder if you wanted to get that wool off of them. When the wool does grow, they'll have a white patch on their back that you can shear off with a knife or shears. When the animal is domesticated, it will look quite a bit different. It'll have a different texture. It'll look more like a sheep. If I fudge some numbers, I could probably get the mouflon to look like a sheep, rather than try and go through the trouble of doing all the breeding and stuff, because that would be kind of awful. But let's spawn in another one, and another one, and okay, so here we have a male. Took a little bit of time. So as you can see, he has his horns, and as we advance time, we can see his horns start to grow. So if we go like 1 month, see his horns got a bit bigger. Let's just keep going. Let's just all the way. And there you go. So this is how big his horns can possibly get. I think they look quite nice. I spent a ton of time working on these horns. Oh my goodness. But I think it really paid off. I'm really proud of the appearance there. Let's get off of easy for a sec and just talk about what happens if I punch this guy. Yep. So he attacks me. You can see I did start to heal because I am in debug mode. But unlike the pig, he's fine with me now. Boars will try to attack you until you're dead. Whereas Mouflon, you see, he just like lowered his head and charged me. Mouflon will just hit you once. And this is true for all of the other passive mobs, because the other ones will attack you as well. So if I hit this cow, yep, he'll headbutt me pretty hard. And if I hadn't hit that tree, I probably would have gone flying a lot farther. So it's kind of, I mean, you know, if I wasn't healing constantly, it would make trying to hunt animals a little more challenging, because I mean, they do kind of ignore you after that first hit, but if you hit them again, they're gonna get pissed again, and try to knock you back. So it does make I think it'll force players to think a little more about how they're gonna go about hunting animals, especially because an animal like a cow now has, you know, 3,500 health. So taking one down, especially with the recent changes to the butchery skill, resulting in tons and tons of meat coming from these animals, it kind of I hope will make players change how they think about how they're going to go about hunting. Deer will not hit back. I should mention that. So that is animals. I think in a bit I'll probably have to stop the recording and try and find, or at least, you know, I could even do it. In this recording and not worry about doing silly editing and stuff after. So I believe this is a mountains biome here, as we're currently in the mountain's edge. So I'm gonna guess, yeah, this is mountains. The mountain biome itself. Oh, actually, this is a mountain range. What do you know? So that's very convenient. I don't even have to go find one. So this is a mountain range. Mountain ranges generate with a certain, okay, so under a certain set of conditions. So this is a mountain range edge, and we'll have an actual mountain range at some point, probably, stop at the lag, wherever it gets a lot higher. The way that mountain ranges generate, though, is on the borders between regions. So you can see the region layer there is labeled Africa. Over where we were before, it was labeled Americas. And so that boundary is why we have a mountain range here. So it's kind of, you know, the intersection of two continents. The plates come together and push up the rock, and that's how you get these mountain ranges. So like a river, mountain ranges do tend to form in like sort of a snaky pattern right along the border. So I was kind of hoping that would kind of translate into like a spine. This world is actually incredibly convenient because I can show off a ton of different changes. So this is a river. Rivers are much, much larger now. And the size of the river scales with the local rainfall value. So here we have quite a relatively high rainfall of 2,800. And so we have quite a wide river. I think if this was closer to 1,000 or 7 or 5 or 700, the river would probably be about half this width, which is still quite a lot larger than they were previously, because all rivers are larger now. But I'm really happy with how this looks. It means rivers are completely navigable by boat now. Previously, you'd have sections where the river would just dry up, and that was never fun. It didn't look right, didn't look good. But now I think rivers look pretty awesome, so I'm pretty happy with that. You can see we're going through the African jungle. We have this river going through here. I think that looks really neat. Let's not do that. Let's set the time to day. And let's keep talking about other new things, because there are others. Something you may have noticed is the dirt is a lot thinner now. So you can kind of probably see that over here. We have rock only 2 blocks below the surface. So everywhere that we look, dirt is going to be a lot thinner. It does get thick near sea level. So down here you can see the dirt. We have like 4 layers of dirt plus some gravel. And then we have the stone underneath. And that is just in case you really need dirt. I wanted to make it so that it's not like everywhere is completely devoid of dirt. So the closer, for a few blocks right around sea level, dirt is quite a bit thicker. But once you go a little bit higher than that, the dirt layer is relatively thin. And I think that actually has a number of really nice effects on the way that the world looks and feels. So one thing that means is that it's much, much harder to have random, nasty, like ravine-y, caverny things. What used to happen is anytime a cave got anywhere close to the surface, it would immediately, it would collapse because there was so much dirt overhead, and like 7 or 8 blocks, something like 10 blocks even sometimes, thick of dirt, and it would collapse, and you'd have these giant, nasty death traps everywhere, and there were never any caves that were accessible from the surface. But with this change, that is completely different. So it's much, much rarer to see anything like that. There are tons of places, let's stop the lag, where caves can reach the surface and they're completely accessible. Some lignite there, which is, I think, really nice because it kind of makes access to the underground areas a little more viable. We have some more chalcocite here, regular chalcocite. Which is nice. It also means that, like you just saw here, ore can spawn way closer to the surface, so you're much, much more likely to run across ore like this as you're walking around. It means that the Pro Pick is much more likely to be able to pick up any veins that are close to the surface, because previously the Pro Pick does a scan range of 12, that might only hit 2 or 3 blocks of actual stone that could have ore in them. So with this thinner layer of dirt, that makes that a lot easier. Overall, I feel like that's a really positive change. If we walk around long enough, I'm sure we will eventually find a cave or something like that. Let's talk about the roof, thatch roof. So, to be honest, actually, I'm pretty sure I finished working on this, and if not, it'll be finished by the time this update and video comes out. So, thatch roof has been updated to allow for corners. So that was something that a lot of people had a problem with, and originally I hadn't added it because I didn't have the capability to do so, but some of that coding was done as part of working on slate roofs. So now it is possible to make corners on thatch roofs, and I decided, well, might as well just add it then. So I hope that'll make a number of people happy. There is currently no center roof piece. I may add that at some point later, but I felt like the effort now would just be holding back this update that could otherwise get released, and you guys could tell me all the bugs that I left in. So that's pretty cool. There are more blocks actually to talk about. I do kind of want to look at the terrain for a little bit. Just, I don't know, I kind of like going through the world sometimes and just looking at all the different things that can happen with terrain gen. Some more chalcocite here. So as you can see, copper is quite a bit easier to get now, which I think is great. Is this... Aha. So, here we go. We have the entrance to a cave, which this previously you would not see something like this. All of this would have collapsed. There would not be any access to this. So I think that is pretty cool. There is another change that has happened with caves and temperature. So it is now true that having solid stone above your head can help protect you from the elements a bit. So what time of day is it? Oh, I can't even check this way. Oh, it's probably the wrong time of year. Yeah, it's May. Let's go into like the height of summer. And what time of day is it? So, okay, why should we get warmer? Oh well. Maybe it doesn't really matter. I was hoping that I could get some sort of temperature difference so that I could show you. Oh, it's raining now. I don't like rain. Don't like thunder especially. If I could show you something that has changed. Oh, we're not in creative mode. But if you are standing under the... Actually, you know what? Oh, it's cold, and now it's not. So if you're standing with the rock above your head, you do get a bit of temperature protection, which you can see there, how the thermometer goes into the comfortable zone. And that is so that caves, the new caves which are accessible, can act as a form of shelter. If you are having some issues with the temperature, you can go into a cave and get some respite from it. It has to be at least 7 blocks of stone over your head, though, and it can't be, very much broken up. So I wouldn't recommend trying to use stone as insulation in a proper house, because that'd be very expensive. But I did want to offer some form of natural weather protection. So let's talk about another new block. And I think we're going to have to go into survival for this. And let's grab some mud. So the recipe for this, I'm not sure where exactly I left it off. But let's take some sticks and we'll go like that. Okay, so currently, as of the time I'm recording this, the current exchange here is 4 sticks to get 2 wattle. So wattle looks like this. It acts as a fence. You can't jump over it. But if you have some mud, which, remember, mud was added a couple updates ago, you can use it to make mud bricks. So this is granite mud. You can make granite mud bricks, but we're not going to do that right now. Instead, if we apply the mud directly to the wattle, we get this kind of gray, dried wattle and daub. So wattle and daub, I guess expense-wise, it costs per block, as of the time of recording, 2 sticks, half a dirt, half a straw. I'm not sure if that is too cheap. I originally had made wattle cost 4 sticks for 1 piece, and I may put that back. So by the time you get this update, that may be back. Because wattle and daub is not vulnerable to rain the way mud bricks are, I kind of want to make it more expensive than mud bricks are. So yeah, I guess I didn't really say that, but yeah, wattle and daub is immune to rain, unlike the mud brick. Wattle and daub will not melt in the rain. However, you can still plaster it. I don't think plaster... See, honestly, it's been so long now, I don't remember if plaster, if the changes to plaster were in the previous update or are going to be in this update. Let's go get some plaster, and we'll talk about what's going on with plaster. So, we have plaster of Paris. Let's get our trowel. Okay, so we have our plaster, we have our trowel. We can plaster this. I believe previously the only things you could plaster were plank blocks. There are a lot more things you can plaster now. You can plaster, you can't plaster chiseled blocks. If this is in a previous update, then it's going to look really silly. But you can plaster stone bricks. I don't think I allowed plaster like raw stone, just because I don't want you plastering the side of a mountain, because that would, for example, protect your cave from collapsing, and that's not cool. That's not a good way to deal with cave-ins. But carved like smooth stone, brick blocks, mud bricks, these. You know, did I change that for mud bricks? I don't remember. It doesn't really matter when it happened. Another thing that changed is marble. I'm not sure if marble had its new updated texture in the last update. If not, I don't remember talking about it. So marble has a new texture. I think it looks quite nice. It looks like marble. If we get marble smooth walls, and we can actually compare, the color of marble to what plaster looks like. Oh, tile.plaster.name. There you go. There's something that needs to be updated. So we, if we put some marble down like this, and then we put the wall underneath, you can see it actually gets this extra thing going on at the bottom. If we put that at the top, you can see has another one. So if you do want some cheap pillars, that's something you can do. I feel like it doesn't really matter. So that's that. Man, there's probably something. Ah, yeah. Okay, so there should be a change that allows clothing to degrade properly when you're wearing it. That may or may not break clothing entirely. Hard to know when I'm playing by myself. So you guys gotta let me know if that is the case. There is a new item called foot wraps. So straw foot wraps are a type of straw sock that you can make. The recipe is, I believe, if we get some straw, it should be identical to how I think boots are made. So it should be like that. So that's how we get straw foot wraps. So heat resistance minus cold resistance plus. It's kind of like a slightly what do you call it? Worse version of the cloak, the straw cloak. These are based on, I believe, the Utsi find in the Alps, the man that had died 4,000 or 5,000 years ago and was covered in a glacier. When they found his body, he had inside of his boots straw stuffed down, and I think formed into a kind of foot covering, but it was the lining of his boots. And so I figured that it would make sense that we could have a sort of woven or created straw sock. This could act as the lining of a boot. I'm currently just wearing it like outright, and it's making me a little hot, so I'll take it off. But if you are in a situation later, I realize that if in like an extreme temperature environment, without proper processing ability, like cloth, which requires a loom to make, the cold weather clothing that is available is fur and straw, and so you'd be able to have the fur hat, the fur coat, the fur boots, and a straw cloak. But there are still no, the pants options. You could have a straw skirt, but that doesn't really. I guess that might help offset some of the heat resistance penalties that the fur might give you. But there wasn't much else to give you any extra cold protection. So I figured foot wraps could be something you could stuff down your fur boots to sort of give you a little extra protection from the outdoor, the weather. People always tell me that kaolinite's too hard to find. I don't know, man. I find it all over the place. I don't know what you guys are complaining about. There will be some changes to how kaolinite works and what you can do with it at some point in the future. Not quite yet. And I don't really want to talk about it too much in case people get the wrong idea and think I'm talking about a feature that is currently added. Just to be clear, kaolinite is not changed right now, but it will be in the future. Okay. There's probably something I'm forgetting to talk about. It's been a long process to update things. I could just go through the creative menu right now and look to see if there's anything new. In here, there's probably going to be some nasty little items that you're never supposed to have access to, hidden somewhere inside. So some updates to trees. Should be easier to get saplings off of trees now. Should be a little easier to get bamboo saplings specifically. Previously, couldn't really get them. Fruitwood sapling is not obtainable. It won't even function if you do get one. That's kind of just has to exist. Chimneys should work better now. If there are still issues with them, you'll have to let me know, and I'll see about updating them. Let's see. Moss, yeah, moss doesn't really have a texture. So we talked about armor stands. Oh, bushes. Let's talk about bushes. So there's a change in this update. Previously, we'll also talk about fruit trees. It was you had to have more than 40 ounces of fruit in a large vessel. So in a large vessel like this, we had to have dirt. Just get a ton of dirt. You had to have at least 2 dirt in each slot. And let's just grab a ton of apples. We'd put the apples inside and we'd wait for them to decay. Which we could even just do that right now. We'll just go like a month in the future and we'll watch the decay go up. And as soon as it hits 50%, it transforms into a red apple tree sapling. And so there was a change that I made, so that now should function with 40 ounces, but the change that I made, let's say, take some raspberries, and we'll jump ahead another month. So, I don't actually remember testing this, so... Okay, so we got 2 blueberry bushes from that. That is not at all correct. I'm guessing that is because... this is going to be so silly. I'm guessing raspberries are probably the second data entity, and blueberries are the... Or not the second, I guess the third 0 indexed, and the blueberries are probably the 0th. And that was probably, instead of giving us, or maybe I guess blueberries would be the first index, the second index, which is the first, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Instead of giving us 1 of the second of item number 2, it gave us 2 of item number 1. So I believe that should be a simple, as we are doing this video in the development environment, that should be a pretty quick fix to do. So that would be All right, let's try that one more time. Oh, we gotta make sure we put the dirt there. So if this doesn't work, then that means there was something fundamentally wrong with the code. Okay, raspberry bush, yay! So that was the problem. It wasn't really that bad. But yeah, so now this is a way that you can get raspberry bushes. So bushes are, what do you call it? You can get more of them. If you have one, you can get more, assuming you can get enough fruit off of them. So here's an example of a cave that has generated. Previously, caves like this wouldn't generate. And let's go into peaceful wandering around at nighttime in caves. But this would be something that a player could use as a type of shelter. So as you can see, it was cold, and then we went inside, and now it's not so cold. But yeah, so I think that's quite nice. So, yep, so we have berry bushes are now... yep, there's something I wanted to show off as well. Let's grab some of this. This is something that was actually added a while ago, and I forgot to ever mention it. And I feel really bad about that. So let's take a look at this. So this is an alternative recipe for making shingles. It doesn't require the clay napping interface, the clay shaping interface. But it's a little bit cheaper, only costs 2 clay instead of 2.5. The log is not consumed, it just acts as like a form so you can make the clay tile rounded. That was a quality of life change that I made a while ago, and I never disabled the old recipe because I had forgotten to mention it, or I guess I'd added it after I'd made the update video for that update. And so because no one knew about it, I wasn't going to remove the old recipe, and everyone would go, hey, why didn't you tell us about this? So I left the old one in and just had that as an alternative. But then I forgot to tell you guys, and everyone was probably making tiles the long, hard way. So I am sorry about that. I will disable the old clay shaping recipe by the time this update comes out, so that you all can have a better time with this. I should stress this. I feel actually bad. I should have mentioned this earlier in the video. Due to the changes to ores and the addition of these 2 new ores, your old ore items will be completely busted if you update to this patch. Just right out the window. Copper will work. Nothing else will. Well, nuggets should still work, and I guess the basic ores will work. But if it's poor or rich, completely broken. Minerals are all broken. So if you have any of those things, try and process them into something else. So if it's gypsum, grind it into gypsum powder. That'll make it safe. If it's like an ore, melt it in. You got to make the metal, because before you update, if you make it into metal, it will be safe. But if you update and it's still ore, it'll be gone. So graphite, grind that into graphite powder. Kaolinite, grind that into kaolinite powder. If you leave it as the item, it will be broken. It won't work. It'll be like an unknown thing. And that is because the ID values have been completely changed. Previously, there was no room for extra ores or minerals to be added. Now there is tons and tons and tons of room for any new ores and minerals that I'd ever like to add, and there will be some more that I'll be adding. I added the 2 new copper ores with this update, and there will be more in the future. Let's continue going through this list. It feels so silly to have to do this, but it's probably the safest way to make sure that we cover everything that needs to be talked about. Okay. Yep. So yeah, this is a nasty little item that shouldn't exist because it's just something to do with how things are changed. I guess I'm gonna have to enable something to take them out of the creative menu because those are unobtainable items. Same thing there. Oh yeah! Whew. Can't believe we almost forgot about this. This one's pretty cool. I'm actually pretty glad that I added this. I was like, I knew there were some other things that I worked on in this update. So we're gonna need, this may be like, what are you doing? Why are you taking out 4 wooden spears? Let's grab 4 medium hides. Let's get 2 large bear furs and 4 medium wolf furs. Most wolves will drop small wolf furs, and if you get small wolf furs, this will not work for what I'm about to show you. You do need the medium ones, which are a little harder to get, a little rarer. But hopefully you guys will be able to find them. Okay. So I right click with a wooden spear. We actually, oh, let's get rid of that. We place it in the ground. And we're actually going to put down 4 of them. Then we take our medium hide and we're in debug mode. Of course we're in debug mode. Oh man, my health's gone down. Yep, in debug mode, you do get some extra things showing up. But yeah, we have here, this is currently called a choom. I may change that back to teepee, just because I feel like choom isn't really that well known of a word. They're pretty much the same thing. Chooms are made by people in the Uralic Mountains. Okay, yeah, I guess my nutrition is probably garbage right now, because that health is just dropping like a rock. Yep, it's really low. Hey. I mean, as long as we don't die. Are we gonna die? Oh, yeah, we're probably gonna... Yeah. Alright, so we can actually talk about why these planks are showing up and what the purpose of that is. So the teepee itself, the choom here, is the structure it's rendering, but that doesn't actually provide the collidable boxes, you know, in order to keep you know, people from walking through the side. This block is not collidable, that's why it's got, looks like aspen. You can see here the name was tile invisible block, if we can find it again. And that's exactly what they are. They're invisible blocks. In debug mode, they do render as plank blocks. Normally, they do not have a hitbox that you can touch, so you can't break them. But just in case something's gone wrong and there's an invisible block that is not removed when the TP is taken down, debug mode allows you to go in and manually destroy them. But yeah, this kind of shows you the shape. So those blocks down there, you can put items down. You could put like a basket or something down. But you can see, you know, this is how this TP works. Alright, I'm just gonna grab like an apple. Oh, okay. So I think we'll do like 100. Let's do 10, 100. Is that gonna... That should... There we go. Cool. Yeah, the SPS command is something that was added a while ago, but no one ever bothered to fix it. And it stands for set player stats. And it should be a number 0 to 100 of percentage for stats. Food and water. Is this going to continue to go down? Oh man, this fruit... Yep, that's kind of annoying. I guess that's what happens. Gotta keep eating more fruit. You know what though? I bet if I logged out or exited the world and then came back in. Yep, that stops things from going down. So now we just have a regular old 200 health. And we'll just eat this so that we're no longer hungry. Anyway, so we have this structure here. If it's not clear, this is a bed. So I can use this to skip the night. It will not, and this took a little bit of fandangling. It will not set your spawn, and it will not reset your spawn. So if your spawn is set to a bed at your house, and you take the materials for a teepee out into the world, and you sleep in it for a night, your spawn will still be the bed in your house. So that makes them pretty convenient. They are portable, so if I break it, we get the medium raw hides that we use to make it. We can, oh yeah, don't go flying off, please. We walk up and right click on these, we can pull them up. But along with these changes, the straw hide bed will not function if it is too cold or too hot or it's raining. So that is something to keep in mind. So if you're trying to use a straw hide bed and you are not in a comfortable place, you just won't be able to sleep. The teepee, however, or choom, does not have that limitation. It does, I think down to 0 degrees, the choom will function. And if you use the fur, wolf fur, or bear fur, you'll get much better results. So you can see, excuse me, what that looks like. If it wasn't clear, it's too large or for medium to make this. You right click in the center of the 4 spears, which form a 3x3 area. And we'll just get rid of this wolf one. That didn't have its name set properly. Bear TP.name, yeah. So I'll probably change all of them to say TP, wolf fur TP, bear fur TP. But the fur teepees give you better protection against the cold. So if you were trying to sleep in the Arctic, if you were doing some sort of Arctic expedition, you'd want to take one of these so that at nighttime you'd be able to skip the night and not worry about what the temperature is going to be like. So I think these are pretty cool. I think they look pretty nice. They're functional. And I hope you guys have fun with them. So yeah, there's a ton of changes that have gone into this. And there's bound to be a ton of bugs associated with it. So I would please, if you guys find any, let me know. You can easily find me on Discord. We have like a command on Discord for reporting bugs. So please report them if you find any. I'll leave a link to the Discord channel in the description. There will be a link to the CurseForge page where you can download this. There'll be a link to my Patreon. If you guys want to support me on Patreon, the only tier is $1. That's all I ask. If you don't want to, if you can't afford it, you don't want to, that's fine too. There will never be a point where you'll have to pay anything to get access to this mod. If you do want to support me, the 2 things that I offer are special roles on the Discord and Flare on the subreddit. And you may ask me one simple request that you'd like to have in the mod. If it's a really easy thing, I'm probably going to say, yeah, sure, I'll add that, when the time comes and I'm working on features like that. If it's a little more complicated, then I will look at, that would be the only time I'd ever, look at how much you're donating, because I feel bad if you were a really high supporter and I just said no to your idea, and also just how good your idea is. If you tell me something, I'm like, that's amazing, I wish I thought of that myself. Doesn't even matter if it's going to take me like a month to do it. If you got a super cool idea and you only give a dollar and you doesn't even matter, you quit the next day, it's like, you know what, that was a cool idea, and I said I'd do it, and so I will. So that is how that works. If you want to make a request and you think you have a cool idea for the mod, let me know. If I think that the request you have isn't really possible, it'll cause a ton of lag, or it would take way too long, I will tell you, and I'll ask you to come up with something else that I will try to implement. please take a look at that. Check that out. There are also polls on Discord. The first mob was the boar, and then the mouflon, and that was decided by patron poll. They're the ones that got to choose which animals came first. I guess after this update there'll have to be another poll to ask which next animal will come. But yeah, so if you guys want to stay up to date on all the things, all the developments that happen in Terraforming Craft Plus, please check out the Discord. This video is nearly an hour long. That's crazy. It's gone on far too long, but I guess it took me this long just to talk about everything because I've been working on so many different things. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, drop a like, check out the mod on CurseForge, and I'll see all of you next time.